Hey everyone, FDL here with yet another tournament report. Today is October the 31st, Halloween 2014, and there were actually two pop-ups played tonight, and if I'm not mistaken, Emigor won both with the same Discard Zaladar build, or at least both two Discard Zaladar builds, and so yeah, it's a pretty popular deck right now, pretty powerful. Not my favorite, but I mean, if you're good with it, you have a pretty good matchup against a lot of decks. So without further ado, let's jump in. Emigor played SamuelJ, TAZWIZ, and Pijo in this one. This is played on 288, so once again, it's recorded through the browser. So Emigor went 2-1 against Sam's Zhanna. Harbinger discarding, what is that? A Dagger of Fate, and Hymn. Ooh, Zhanna playing Confluence of Fate. So some kind of heavy control build. Actually curious to see how he won a game. I've been testing some control priests with Confluence of Fate and lots of attachments and trying to win with looping a Holy Shield on an Eris, and it's well, it's 50-50. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. And you can just lose to yourself a bunch of times, so. But Confluence of Fate allows Sam to cycle his Strength of Conviction, you know, playing a buff on an ally that you know is gonna die. Well, he didn't know because he didn't have 4 damage on the board, but I mean, you have good reasons to believe that you're actually gonna lose your ally. But with Confluence out, you can cycle the attachment for something hopefully more useful next turn. And Sam is going all out on attachments with Tome of Blessing, so it's gonna be ally heavy. Tome of Blessing reduces damage by to allies that have attachments by 2. I think it's just combat damage, is it? It's hard to read. I zoom in maybe. It's one cards you don't see super often. Yeah, I think it's combat damage. But this could be rather quick. With it's only turn 6. Zhanna is down to 17 now, and Emigor has 5 damage on the board, 5 energy stored. It's another Devourer. Nope, but another Reactuary. So unless then I can find a Tidal Wave, she's gonna be in a lot of trouble. I'm guessing he's playing Tidal Wave. Even if you're playing a attachment build, Tidal Wave is too good to pass up. And it's not Tidal Wave. So this is probably the end, especially if Emigor, sorry, has a mind control. Down on 9, there's 7, and there's still 5 damage coming, so pretty much anything. Shadowfont, Krygon, mind control. And it is a Shadowfont, so that was pretty quick. And Yeah, I guess that's one of the power of Discard Zaladar, is that if your opponent hiccups, you can get a free win. Let's see how Sam actually won a game. I think Discard Zaladar's weakness is the fact that he plays super squishy allies. If you play Soul Seeker, if you play Gargoyle, nobody's playing Gargoyle right now, but I think it's very well positioned in the current metagame. Everybody's attacking for comboing like little 1, 2, 3 damage attacks or source of damage. So yeah, Gargoyle should be a pretty good card these days. So Sam cycles a for Eunaxio again. Well, actually, with Eunaxio bouncing back to his hand, he does not lose it, so he gets a +1 card out of it. Manages to get board control here. If you have the choice to take out the Harbinger or the Devourer and cripple the other, you want to put the Harbinger in. Well, actually there are two things you might consider. Putting the Harbinger in the graveyard might help your opponent achieve his undead requirements for Bone King or Crypt Spawn Hound. Yeah, Sacred Firewalker gives immunity to fire damage. I don't know if you noticed that Emigor discarded a Devourer and could not deal any damage to the Crusader. So that's pretty sweet. So yeah, but if you put the Devourer in the graveyard and your opponent is playing Infinity Core, which is common in those builds, well, you give him a nice card to target. He'd rather use Infinity Core on Devourer than the Harbinger. So Emigor managed to get back in the game. Here's +2. Does not go for DMT. Hasted Zealous Mystic with a bunch of buffs, but thanks to Confluence he's gonna get his hand back at the end of the turn. It's pretty well, getting the FFM back on 5 HP was a good move, I think. Otherwise even a Shadow Font, I mean, I'm partial to trying to bait a Shadow Font out of my opponent so that I have an open board to play a bigger ally on. But I guess that works pretty well for Sam here. Wizened Shimmercloak gives +1/+1 for each attachment attached to your ally. That's a pretty big buff here. But basically this game was played on the... I don't know if it was a misplay from Emigor where he targeted... well, he played his Brimstone Devourer on the Crusader, hoping to kill him with Zaladar's ability. Well, I guess that's an argument for knowing your cards and all the little interaction. I guess that's the advantage you have when you play a rarer build. For Eunaxio again, netting him an extra card. And for free with the Zalian Crusader. Once you've swarmed Zaladar, it's... I mean, it's not impossible for him to come back, but it's it's much harder. I mean, this whole Discard Zaladar deck, it hinges on the concept that you want to synergize all your little threats and you know, really gain value out of all your the cheap plays you can make. But once you whiff, like, you know, you like when he let FFM and 3/3 I think mistake alive. I mean, from this point on, he's playing catch up, and all his cards lose a lot of value. Big FFM comes in for 4 at least. Will Sam heal the Crusader to attack into the dagger? Wouldn't be... oh, even better. Get a kill off of Mystic and the Crusader. So pretty sweet game from Sam, and then a very nice deck. We can wonder how the game would have gone had Emigor not wasted 3 damage on the Sacred Firewalker affected Crusader, but yeah, that was good nonetheless. Just an argument for playing as much as possible, so you encounter all those little interactions that you might not be aware of. I mean, I guess some players know all the cards, but I've been playing this game for what, 3-4 years now, and I still don't know some of the cards. Like Tome of Blessing, I wasn't sure what it did. Pretty good outcome here. It's pretty much as good as it gets, getting a Harbinger and a Reactor Area on an empty field. So Emigor has a pretty commanding lead here. But actually, Victor is probably one of the heroes that could have a good game against Discard Zaladar with a Soul Seeker. I mean, pretty much all his allies are within Soul Seeker range, and even Poison Arrow trades 1-for-1 with most of Zaladar's allies. TAZWIZ is a pretty good player. I don't know. I don't know if it's been his IGN forever, but I started to see him pop up in QM quite a lot. Sorry. So it was a pretty high-level tournament with Emigor, SamuelJ. It was all guild players and Pijo. On the other side, Pijo beat Carniv from TJ and Sky from Alpha Predators. I guess you saw that, right? Sorry. Back to the game. It looks like Emigor couldn't find anything better than a Tainted Oracle. That's what I get for recording in the browser. And here comes the Soul Seeker. Zaladar has a dagger that would be nice here to take out one durability of the Soul Seeker. Yeah, take your extra damage while you can. Attacking, if you know your opponent is gonna use his Soul Seeker the next turn, you want to attack into the Soul Seeker even though your ally is gonna die. So he gets a lesser heal from, actually you can deal damage, and then pretty nice play here. Yeah, so you want to deal damage before he gets to heal, otherwise he gets a +3, and if you attack it into his Soul Seeker, he only gets a +1 or +0. So Victor is pretty short on draw here. Zaladar goes all in. I don't know if he has a living armor. It's actually been renamed now, right? It's a soulbound armor. But a simple dagger with antimatter be pretty good here. If he has a either Cultist Devourer or a Krygon, Mind Control can work, I guess. With his ability up, there's not a lot Victor can do. I mean, now a Krygon or another Shadow Font kills him. So yeah, whenever you're playing a Soul Seeker deck and you're more of a rushy kind of build, you want to do exactly what Emigor did here. So you play as much allies, as many allies as you can early on, get your damage in, and then switch to your second plan of attack. So if you're a Zaladar or a mage, or you have direct damage capabilities, you want to use that at the end of the game when your opponent cannot. So you cannot, you know, give your opponent any targets to feed on with his Soul Seeker. Let's move on to the finals. So Loest versus Zaladar. I think Pijo played a lot of control-ish mages, but Rush Loest has been more popular recent weeks. Harbinger discarding Tio and Krygon. Krygon would be useful here. Yep, here's another one. So Fate Break, or now I guess it's Cinderborn Fate Breaker. It's been popping up much more these days. It's a decent card. The right situation, it really shines, but I mean, it's better than Puin for sure. Or is it for sure? I mean, sometimes you don't want it to die, but I guess most of the time it's better than Puin, especially if you make use of the Homunculus subtype. So Emigor keeps getting value out of his the synergy of all the allies in his deck. Decides to keep his ability, which is a good idea, I think. He can pretty much take out, I mean, when Zaladar has 4 cards in hand like that, and his ability up, it's very hard to believe that one of your allies will survive next turn. Here it's pretty nice play, cantripping into with a Cultist. I mean, it forces Loest to play Supernova, which plays into Zaladar's hand, because this is a race, and Zaladar is equipped to win it. Especially, I don't know if Emigor plays Soul Reaper, but I mean, it's it's very annoying when you're playing when you're the mage and you're playing a Zaladar and you're both racing. And it's always in the back of your mind. Does Zaladar have Soul Reaper? I mean, is he gonna suddenly gain 12, 18 HP? At which point your burn cards become irrelevant, basically. So Pijo decides to go all in. He opens himself up for a pretty big X for 1. At least gonna lose 2 cards here. Was it worth 4 damage? Yeah, so I mean, usually this wouldn't be such a bad spot with when you force your opponent to use abilities and clear the board, and you still have an open board on your turn. But here I'm guessing this is a draw engine of some sort. This is bad. When you just give your opponent back the board, I mean, this is a turning point in the game. If you see this happening, where someone just completely gives the board to his opponent when he had an opportunity to take it, it's a pretty big tell that he's in trouble. Now Zaladar, I mean, he's pretty confident that Loest doesn't have a draw engine, otherwise he would have played it. Here, if he had an ally, I guess I would have played the ally, but Loest does have his ability up. But I don't know, I still want to draw Loest's ability on the little ally. I guess Dagger of Fate will work. And once again, I mean, Loest can't have any confidence that any of his allies will survive. Okay, TO isn't bad. Still gonna go down to 8 HP and probably lose board control. And have no means to take it back. And at this point he can't play Supernova, so that's dead. And now he's playing catch up. That's actually a pretty good turn here, but a lot of things can still go wrong for Loest. This isn't too bad, but I mean, you always see the Zaladar's ability tick up, and you're like, okay, I have 6 HP. I mean, in 3 turns I'm dead if he has a Shadow Font. If I play allies and he has a mind control, I'm dead. So, I mean, it's never a very comfortable situation. Could be worse, and this is the point at which you say, does he have Soul Reaper? Soul Reaper now would be the end of the game, basically. So I guess this was, I mean, was this Rush or Control? Didn't see any Fatty, and there was Chris. So we saw Chris, Aldon, Seductress, and Puddle. I guess it was more of a rushy build, and the Fate Breaker. Priest of the Light's doing good work here. Giving him a little bit of life. Krygon to the face, I guess. No, decides to go for board control. Would have dealt 5 damage. Well, he would have had to kill the Krygon, put him down to 9. I guess with Fireball Nova he could have drawn. So my guess is this is a Fate Soul Reaper. If he decides not to race, it's a pretty good indication, I think. Well, actually, Seductress was good. Seductress on the Krygon, then send 5 damage to Zaladar, and then a number of burn combination would have killed Zaladar. So I guess he was right in playing for the board here. And he does have Soul Reaper. Back on 28 against 5. And now you know this game is lost. You can try racing all you want, he probably does not have enough burn in his deck left to kill Zaladar. Oh, any dagger, Krygon, DMT. Not DMT actually. You could say Soul Reaper saved the game, but if he had any offensive piece on the last turn, he could have won too. And Dagger does it. So was it tight? I mean, if Zaladar held that Soul Reaper all game long, it really changes how we can approach the game and what his priorities are. Game 2 was actually won by Loest. Did you rush him down? He went first, started with Chris. So what did we see for draw for Loest? It was Tio and the Amulet. Amulet sees a lot of play. Yeah, it's good. Pretty much the only mage I play these days is, well, I haven't played her in a while, but Russia Ladwin. And I don't like the Amulet much in that build. I tried a more controlless Majaya recently, and I had 3 Amulets and 3 Tux, and I kept playing the Tux over the Amulet, so I don't know, maybe it's just me, but not a big fan of the Amulet yet. But I've seen it used against me very effectively. And I know that some cards I just can't play, you know? Like Antimatter, I hate playing Antimatter. But it should be, I mean, this card has my name written all over it. It's exactly the kind of card I like to play, small synergies. Drawing, discarding, it's fun stuff, but for some reason I find it super awkward. Zaladar going to the face, it tells me that he has a supernova. Especially with Tio out, it's pretty good value for him. And Emigor recognizes that, decides to race. Which could be a bit tricky, I guess, because now with Lightning Strike... no, you can't do anything with Lightning Strike. You go Nova, draw off the Nova, and then have his ability up on the next turn, so whatever ally Zaladar plays, Loest can exile and gain the board. Well, Zaladar is giving the board anyway. But he has so many ways to take it back that, I mean, the tempo loss of playing your draw engine, especially if you get to draw off the same turn, it's worth it. Loest gives up the board too. I don't know if I like that. I guess he didn't want to give value to Zaladar playing an ally and then having it zapped and either daggered or Krygoned or DMT'd or whatever, but I mean, he's not playing any fatties that we've seen yet. I guess armor is the biggest threat he has. And you can't let Zaladar stack energy and stack cards in his hand. I think I would have liked playing an ally there. Maybe it did not have one. That's that's a possibility, but if you have one and you force your opponent to expand his removal, I think that's a good play. So Pijo decides to use the armor as in a defensive role. I guess, I mean, it's potentially up to 16 HP. Well, given that Zaladar attacks for 1 or 2 mostly, it's more like 4 to 8 HP, but every point counts in this matchup. Now Loest has pretty much switched to burn the face mode. If you're playing Amulet, one thing to note is that it takes a destroyed resources from your resource pile. So you want to make a play first before drawing from the Amulet. So here Pijo had 7 resources. He played the Priest of the Light, then activated the amulets with. So he still had 4 out of 6 resources left. So he still played 7 resources worth of card that turn. Now the race is on again. And Soul Reaper is once again a question that's in the back of Pijo's head, without a doubt. Lightning Strike for some value here. But, and I mean, you play Lightning Strike, kill 2 guys, but you know you might have just given him 4 HP back. But on the other hand, if you put him on, and if you put him on 6 and he still has 4 power on the board, that's a risky play too. And here comes the Reaper, back up to 28. A Priest of the Light would be nice here. Nope. But it's a race, and Loest has a healthy... oh, the Familiar on the Soul Reaper would have been nice. Loest has a healthy life total. And there's not a lot Zaladar can do. I mean... Mind Control will only hit for 2. How much power is there on the board? 2, 4, 9, 12. So he's dead in... could be dead next turn with some fireballs. Decides to draw. That's a good sign when your opponent's way behind and he draws. I think you're happy with that. Does manage to take out a lot of stuff. He's still on 20, so I guess he's in a pretty decent position. Puts Tio down on 1 so that he can attack. If Tio attacks into the Zaladar, he's gonna die to the dagger. Pijo is pretty committed to the face raping plan. Doesn't have much of a choice. He's getting very far in his deck. He needs to get every point of damage he can find. Now Zaladar is out of ability. That has nothing on the board, and Pijo actually has lethal. He has 11 points of damage on the board, and you know he has some kind of burn in there. Emigor is also getting pretty far in his deck. Decides to play Soul Reaper for 2. I don't know if I like that. I mean, it means he has pretty much nothing here. I don't know if you want to tell... I mean, at this point you're pretty much sure there's going to be a game 3. I don't know if you want to show it to your opponent that you have 2 Soul Reapers at least. Because I mean, he's playing Harbinger, so if on turn 2 he plays Harbinger and mills a Soul Reaper, Pijo can wonder, does he only have one? Does he have more than one? But now he knows that he has at least two. That was Pijo's game. He actually killed him twice. He went all the way down to, what was it, 10 or 11? And back up to, to 28. Here we go for the final game. I hope I'll have enough time to finish it. Might have to leave before the end. I'm sorry if that happens. So Zaladar went first again, so both players won going first. He just tries to rush on the draw. And when going second, Priest... Actually, when going first, Priest of the Light is very good against Zaladar. Going second, it's not as good, I guess. A lot of ways to deal 3 damage. Emigor decides to go for the Fate Breaker, which I think is a good choice because unless Pijo has Aldon here, can't kill anything. He hasn't played any Treasured Heirloom, has he? Seductress is good. Shadow Font will clear the board. If Loest fails to find a Lightning Strike, it's gonna be in a bit of a hole here. Okay, Seductress is decent. Cultist Devour. No, another Shadow Font. And yeah, even now it's early in the game, but playing Nova would be pretty bad for Loest. Now it looks like he failed to find any draw. Well, hopefully for him, this one last card here is some form of draw source. I guess that's one of Zaladar's strengths, is that even on low resources, if both players are stuck on low resources, Zaladar can gain a lot of value with all his little plays. Like here, this is a very good turn for Zaladar. Once again, he's pretty confident that Loest does not have a draw engine. He set up a dagger for antimatter. And yeah, when your opponent has an empty hand like that, you're happy. Zaladar will even take the time to build up his hand a little bit. Reactuary is very good here. And at this point, the game is pretty much over. Maybe if Loest finds an amulet now, he can make it back in. Tio is decent, and he needs to find an what's it called? Supernova. Lightning Strike would have been good too. Zaladar will even ignore the Tainted Oracle. Straight up race the Loest, which is fine, I think, because I mean Loest needs to Loest needs to dig in his deck, and he needs to find a supernova. And if you can create some gap between your HP and your opponent's HP, playing supernova is pretty bad for him. Yes, Pijo shows that he's not Pijo, but Emigor is pretty confident in his game, discarding a Soul Reaper. But those armors are doing good work, but at this point they're only lasting for one turn. Here Zaladar decides to not take 2 points of damage. That's fine too, I guess. I mean, there's not a lot of things that can go wrong for Zaladar. So Pijo did manage to find the Nova, and he elected to remove Zaladar's drawing power, which is a good idea. But if I were Zaladar, I would have kept some kind of draw source for this exact reason. When you see Loest's ability getting to 5, and Cultist is great. Was great in that role. Another one here, it forces Pijo to keep finding answers to his allies. And yeah, Zaladar had 8 energy, decides to go for the face, which is a pretty decent choice here. Yeah. He's gonna be able to keep the board with mind control and send 7 damage on Loest. So yeah, this is over. Yeah, that was Discard Zaladar. Pretty standard build. Actually, I don't think this one played the armor. Didn't see it. And it's a good deck, obviously, and you gotta be ready for it. I think I would not play it in a tournament because it's one of the most popular deck, and the chances that you get a mirror are pretty high, and mirrors are basically coin flips, so you don't want to get involved in any of them. But definitely be ready for it. I think playing hard to kill things like Gargoyle and Phoenix Uragon is a pretty good answer to those Zaladar decks, and direct damage in general. Otherwise, let's see. But with which decks do I have success against Zaladar? Where's Zaladar? See that too? No, you can't. Okay. Zaladar is here. So Tala's pretty good against Discard Zaladar because she can create some high HP allies, which prevents Zaladar from getting value of his Shadow Fonts and Krygons and discarded Devours. I'm playing Haste Zhanna, Haste Tala rather. So I mean, when you play a hasted guy, you get some value before the removal comes in. And fortified Tala could be pretty good too, with a lot of damage reduction on fortified wisps and sandworm, which are poor mind control targets, and they basically render all of Zaladar's deck unable to do any kind of damage. Eladwin, I'm 50-50. Well, it's kind of like the Loest matchup we just saw. Zhanna, I have a well good record. I've only played a limited number of games, but my control Zhanna, I don't feel very comfortable bringing it against a rush Zaladar. What else? Combo Jericho, that's terrible. Don't play that against Zaladar. Any kind of combo deck will get destroyed by a rushy build. But with Rush Lance, I've had great success against these Discard Zaladars. Once again, the stealth prevents some some of Zaladar's good plays, and haste also matters here. Baduru, I've had 6 wins, 3 losses against Zaladar. Actually, my 3 losses are in tournaments, I think, and the 6 wins on quick match. It's not great playing Resource Destruction Baduru against Rush Zaladar. Well, I mean, what's great is that your Soul Seekers basically kill their whole deck. So you can gain a lot of HP, and but on the other side, they have hasted guys and pinging guys and guys that come in from discard. So they have a lot of sources. They can even get around your snare traps. But the most annoying thing is the dagger. The dagger will make your night prowlers basically useless, and they'll chip off your bows. And when you're on off turns where you don't have any bow, you're in trouble. There, they can build up their board, but basically you just sacrifice all the removal you have. Hunters don't care about Hunter's Gambit, you don't care about Perfect Shot, because all their guys are super squishy, and you want to destroy their antimatter, force them to stay on low resources, and try to gain as much value as possible off of your bows. Ideally Soul Seeker and what's his name, Grundler's Double. You can get both on 3 attack, and Grundler's Double 5 durability is invaluable here, and Soul Seeker's HP is basically a HP gain is basically a card gain. And yeah, if they think you don't have any allies and they spend their shadow energy, then you can try to get some Wolven Tacticians in. But yeah, the dagger here is annoying again because, well, even they have DMTs and they have Rampant Kragons, so the odds that your Wolven Tacticians survive aren't very good. But if you caught Zaladar with a Ricochet trap and is disabled, and then you can sneak in Tactician just for 1 turn, it can be enough to swing the matchup in your favor. Yeah, I've had pretty good record with Gravebone against Zaladar, because once again I'm playing tough to kill guys, and that's a build that basically spams as many Phoenix Uragons as undeadly possible. So and just by playing Phoenix Uragon, you remove so much value out of Zaladar's play, and that's what you want to do. So that was it. Discard Zaladar, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you later.